Hey everybody, it's Frankie-Lou. I'm coming to you today from the Mountainside Homestead in Golden, where I am continuing with my garlic and greens experiment. For those of you who tuned in earlier, you know that I made a mistake and failed to get my garlic in the ground in fall, as it should normally happen in a zone 3 environment like this one here. So I'm attempting to correct that with a little bit of cheating with winter sowing in these large cooler bottles. And what I'm doing is a few weeks ago, I planted garlic in these water cooler bottles inside. And now they are starting to pop up. And here, I'll show you. See? The garlic is starting to come through the ground. As you can see there, the garlic is starting to pop up much as it would in the fall just before the first snowfall comes. So my theory is that I'm going to place this outside in the snow now to replicate winter beginning. And hopefully this garlic will form some nice bulbs over the spring and over the summer, and I'll be able to do a nice harvest. I've got some really good root development going on here, so I'm really happy with it so far. But I don't want to waste this whole resource. And what I'm thinking I'm going to do, just in case the garlic doesn't work, I still want to attempt to grow some other things in here as well. So now I'm also going to plant in the same container some hardy annual leafy vegetables, because this way, even if the garlic doesn't form bulbs, I can still harvest the greens hopefully. And on top of that, I'll have this as a nice cutting garden that I can do some cut and come again hardy leafy greens in. It's also the perfect timing to do this. It's March 10th today, and this is when I start normally putting these things out as it is. So that's why I started the garlic when I did, knowing it would take 2 to 3 weeks to pop through the soil. And now it's time to also do the hardy leafy greens. So I'm hoping this is going to work. What I have done is I've prepared some labels in advance with my upcycled yogurt containers. And I've got about 10 of these containers that I'm going to put some nice hardy leafy greens in. Running from everywhere from perpetual spinach, some kales, some sorrel, some mustard, some pak choi. I'm also going to be doing some orache, 2 different varieties, because that's one of my most favorites. And so basically I should have 10 nice jugs of leafy greens, and hopefully with 5 nice big beautiful garlic bulbs to harvest in the late summer, early fall. One of the questions I get asked the most is about watering your jugs. I always fill all of my jugs with pre-moistened soil, and I generally find that being outside, they don't need watering until the seedlings come up. But as these have been inside, I'm noticing that they actually are a lot drier than I would normally like them to do. So before I place the green seeds in here, I'm actually giving all of these jugs a really good watering too before I plant my seeds. I'm going to start with some perpetual spinach. One of the most important things to keep in mind when you are planting, and this is one of the main errors a lot of people make for their first time winter sowing, is they overplant because they assume it's not going to work, so they overplant so they'll get something. But I have found that if I overplant, particularly if I'm doing it in the smaller jugs like this, where I'm going to be transplanting, I get too many seedlings. It's extremely important to remember not to overplant when you're dealing with vegetables like beets and Swiss chard, because those are cluster seeds. And each one of those seeds can produce anywhere from 2 to 6 different seedlings. And I'm going to show you it here. So these seeds, they're a lot bigger. They're actually, which makes them easier to plant, so that's great. But it's important to remember, they look a lot like beet seeds. Those of you who have planted beets before know that they look a lot like beet seeds because perpetual spinach is Swiss chard. Swiss chard and beets are actually in the same family, and they contain these cluster seeds which have more than one seedling that they can produce. So it's really important you don't overplant those, or you're going to be thinning a heck of a lot. So I am only going to put in here, I'm going to follow the package directions. It's saying here that you want to plant these seeds 1 inch apart and thin. I don't like thinning too much, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to plant them about 4 inches apart, which means I'm only putting I'm putting about 6 seeds in each of these containers. And that might not seem like much, but trust me, that's going to be plenty. Because this is also a cut and come again vegetable. It's going to bush out quite a bit. I'm probably going to have to take this down to 1 or 2 plants. So I know that I've got plenty here. So I'm going to keep planting these up here. I'm going to make sure these are nicely, there's lots of soil contact. And then I'm going to tape this baby back up. I have 10 of these jugs on the go. So I'm really hoping we're going to get some nice garlic out of there. And as I said, if not, we'll at least know we'll get some nice greens out of here. It's a little easier to get my jugs out where they need to be this way. When you're hauling out hundreds, it helps. Every little bit helps. Oh, here's some jugs from last week here underneath all this snow. So I'll keep you posted if you want to follow and see how this comes along. And I'm going to do a few more videos over the next little while about other little tips and tricks to make your winter sowing work well, even in a harsh zone 3 condition. And I hope you take this chance to grow together today. Have a good one.